Okay, let's try this. Take two. So we just tried to do this video, and literally as soon as I hit the record button, it went, fail, redoing database. So let's see how this goes. So I'm here with Todd Blatt today.
Hi there.
Professional, god damn, just came out when I'm a professional maker.
Yeah, I make stuff.
You make stuff, yes. So I guess that's the first question then. What is a professional maker?
Well, I like to create things, and sometimes I do things for money, and sometimes I do things just because I want to make them.
Okay.
Sometimes the things I make just because I want to make them end up being very profitable.
Yeah.
I kind of like to attract attention on the internet by making something crazy, and then if it gets picked up by news sites and then people want it, and I'll make copies of that. But I make things from small scale, like jewelry, like cheap $20 earrings and necklaces and stuff like that, to higher end jewelry that's 3D printed in wax and then cast in silver, to lots of movie prop replicas, lots of prototypes for engineering firms or for your uncle who's an inventor who has these crazy ideas that just needs a prototype to show an investor or something. So I make a lot of those kinds of things that, maybe I don't have my heart into it and I don't really believe that the product will work, but someone else wants to make it and for a couple $100, and they get the prototype that they've been trying to make out of cardboard, but I could model it really quickly in the computer and then laser cut it or 3D print it or make it some other way so it ends up looking professional so they can go to the next step. I help people make things, so if they're beyond that point and they need to go into a small to mid-scale production that they wouldn't be able to do at their house, on their own with their own equipment, I'm able to either outsource that or optimize it for them for the machines that I have, things like that.
Okay.
And then I make my own just neat products and a lot of these movie prop replicas. So, I mean, the biggest thing I've made is full-scale Han Solo in carbonate, like a 7-foot-tall replica of the Han Solo.
Really?
So those are pretty fun.
So because I was asking you, when I first asked the interview, I mean, is that basic? So, are basically just doing 3D printing? I mean,
so 3D printing is definitely the buzzword, the nanotechnology, the hey, everyone has to get a 3D printer if you're doing any kind of creating. I mean, 3D printing is just the flashy one and the neat one, and I think it's because people don't understand it and there's nothing else exactly like it. But laser cutters are for a whole lot of applications, way better, way faster, way cheaper. To make something this big on a 3D printer might take 4 hours.
Okay. And
to do it in a laser cutter, it depends what it is, but you could do it in 40 seconds or something. So it's it's really different. So I like to use digital fabrication. So I'm a digital fabrication specialist. Sometimes when people come to me and they have an idea for a thing, they're like, hey, I want you to 3D print this thing like that. And I'm like, well, no, we should laser cut that. We should CNC route that. That's not a job for 3D printing. It should be injection molded, or we can make a short run silicon mold, or we can, So usually when I tell people who come to me with ideas, you don't tell me how to do it. Let me figure out how to make it. You just tell me what your idea is and what you want out of it.
So how many tools do you have then? What are the different types of tools you use?
Well, what's neat is I don't have a 2D printer, but there's the FedEx, Kinko's, whatever, that you can go and print a vinyl banner or something. So I don't own all the tools, but I do have a makerspace. So the Baltimore Node makerspace has been around for 9 years or so, and I've been a member there since maybe a year after it started.
Okay.
So that's got a full wood shop, a large format high power laser cutter, 3D printer. The wood shop, we just got a CNC router. So that it's 5 foot by 12 foot cutting area, so you can cut giant sheets of plywood or foam or carve things in 3D or carve aluminum or a lot of things. There's a table saw and a jointer and a planer, so I made this table there.
Okay.
And a lot of the tools that aren't at the shop, we don't have a CNC lathe, but I use CNC lathes a lot. We don't have a metal stamping and folding machine or chemical etching process set up there. But there's a lot of these higher end specialized tools that you can just do the design for here. I could sit at my house or sit at the makerspace and then send the CAD files or the design specs to another company who can produce it. A lot of the stuff that I make is made in China, but it's designed here. I got to work with the factory, and it's not just a crazy mass-produced part. It's just cheap for me to make there. I don't have a company here that does that kind of work, and I can get it, shipped over here from there and help other people do that. So it's been pretty neat.
So, yeah. So you said fabrication. So
Digital fabrication. So it's
is that the same as rapid manufacturing? Like, because you hear rapid manufacturing a lot.
I think a lot of people say rapid prototyping. So I think that's a really common thing. And when people say rapid prototyping, usually they mean 3D printing. And rapid prototyping was the word that they used before, like the term for additive manufacturing.
Okay. Yeah.
Before the word 3D printing came out. In 2005 or 8 or so, I don't know exactly. But that was the term. Like when I first saw 3D printing in a high school field trip in 2000 or something like that.
Really?
And it was a stereolithography machine. And that's what I talked about when I was telling everybody, it's additive manufacturing, stereolithography. And nowadays people still don't know what that means, but that's what it was. That 3D printing thing was called that before. So when I say digital fabrication, I mean using a computer, using like the design tools like AutoCAD or Mesh Mixer in the computer to create that CAD model to then send to the machine.
Okay.
So, I mean, while a lot of the work that I do is messy, like I get glue and sawdust on my fingers and stuff, a lot of the manufacturing I do is not what you might typically picture a machine shop to be. It's not like grease everywhere and dirt and people in overalls, and like these high-end manufacturing sites are really like just push a button kind of things. So like when I use the laser cutter, I'll just put a sheet of wood in there and then push the button and it'll cut it out. Or I did a Kickstarter project where I made these leather maps of Baltimore, and so I just kind of laid these hides of leather in the machine and it cut and burned it. And it's not like a hands-on kind of thing. You don't have to sit there with a wood burner tool like a soldering iron or something like that to actually do it by hand. You have a machine doing the work for you. So you can double or triple your efforts by while one machine's working and making your stuff, you can sit there and design your stuff.
That's cool. So when you say, so digital fabrication, so is that a real title? Like, if you go to monster.com, are there digital fabricators? Like,
probably it'll be listed in a resume or in a job posting, but I don't think like the title of a position. I don't think that would be digital. Maybe digital fabrication specialist for a particular makerspace or something, or like maybe a product design, like a larger product design firm might have someone like that. But what you need for that is a design, like the design skills.
Yeah.
So I think nowadays, since these 3D printers are much cheaper than they were, like literally $300 you can get them.
Yeah.
And they'll make something. Most of the people I find that are buying those machines are just downloading designs from other people. Yeah. Like they're not creating the CAD work, and like that's where the money is. That's where the business is. It's not just like doing the actual printing.
Yeah.
Like anyone can do that. That's a commodity.
Okay. Yeah.
I say anyone can do that, but I mean like you buy a 3D printer, you load the CAD file, you just download it. It's kind of like the plug and play style. Just download and print it out.
Yeah.
But I mean, the real expertise comes into creating the design, like optimizing a file for 3D printing, taking someone else's idea or your idea from your brain and putting it into the computer. Like learning that language, that skill is something that takes a very long time to learn to be good at it. I mean, there's like parts that are easier to make than others, but knowing how to design for a specific machine designing for a 3D printer is different than designing for a CNC router.
Okay.
A CNC router is like a router, which is basically like a drill that spins but can cut sideways. So you picture this, if you held like a drill in a block of wood and pushed it sideways with a special bit that could cut sideways, you can imagine like carving out of a block of wood.
Yeah.
So instead of you doing it with your hand, there's a machine that moves around automatically, like for you with a computer. So just like a 3D printer could move around, there's a laser cutter that can move around. And CNC means computer numerically controlled. So it's not your grandfather sitting with a wooden lathe, like the wood lathe in the shop, like carving exactly how he wants it. It's the carving part is done digitally. So you draw it in the computer the shape you want, and then the machine moves exactly how you drew it. So you don't mess up.
Yeah.
You can.
But so like at the end of this, somebody says, "Oh my golly, I want to be the next Todd Blatt," like, and they were going to go out and look at college or go look at jobs, like I said, is there a title for you, or is what you do still kind of sort of new? You're just one of those. Like, I need one of those. I need a Blatt. Does anyone have a Blatt?
I don't think it's like.
Because you
don't have to know how to do everything. Like,
yeah, okay.
you can know how to use a laser cutter really well. You can go and take laser cutter classes. We offer that at the Baltimore nodes. There's like a laser cutter class. You can come and sign up and learn how to use a laser cutter.
Yeah.
But learning a particular software, if you learn Illustrator really well or AutoCAD really well, then you can use those tools on a machine. I have a mechanical engineering degree. We did designing for 3D printing in school, but it wasn't a class on that. They have some classes on that now. I know the community college has a digital fabrication associate's degree. You can spend 2 years taking at CCBC. There's like, my friend Jen teaches this curriculum where you can learn how to use all the tools there.
Yeah.
But for me, I didn't learn it that way. And like I said, I did have exposure to 3D printing in college, and I'm sure it's better nowadays. Yeah. Like, I graduated UMBC in 2007. The way that I learned these tools and the way I learned what I know is I joined the makerspace. I went there. I picked projects that I didn't know how to do, and I learned how to use the machines. I asked someone else. I watched YouTube. I tried to make something, failed. Wasn't not being scared of failing. Really, I learned a lot. I have a whole lot. I wasted so much money on so many different things, money and time, and materials. Just trying something and then it didn't work, or finding a different way to do it.
Yeah.
Just abandoning projects because they're too hard or couldn't figure it out yet, or wanted to do something else.
Yeah.
But you learn all those steps, and then 4 years later you might think back, it's oh, I remember learning that thing when I failed with that project. Let me use that skill later in the new project. So it really picked up those skills. And if we get a new machine, I just bought a machine recently that I haven't used before, and watched a bunch of YouTube videos and learned, and then tried it. I'm sure I'll burn myself, but you learn.
Yeah, that's cool. So then, who do you work for then?
So primarily, 90-something% of my income is from myself. So it's my company. It's called Custom 3D Stuff LLC.
Okay.
I officially founded it, I think, January 3rd of 2012. But I've been making stuff before that. Yeah. So I think I started making and selling stuff in 2009.
Okay. Yeah.
So that's a story I like to tell. It was I'm big into Star Wars. I had this engineering job and I was making all this money, and it was really weird going from college where you don't have any money to making a bunch of money as an engineer. I'm well, what am I supposed to do with life now? Kind of bored. I go here, I make money, and the bank account number goes up, but I'm just kind of sitting here. I want to have some fun. So I was trying to think, what could I do? I was it'd be awesome if I got a really awesome Stormtrooper or Darth Vader costume and then hung out at the harbor and took pictures of people. I think that'll be fun. So I looked into it more, and I stumbled across this organization called the 501st, and they're a 501c nonprofit. They're a charity organization that people dress up in Star Wars costumes and go to kids' birthday parties and go to baseball and football games and basketball and weddings and bar mitzvahs and parades and libraries, Star Wars Reads Day, and so you get to build this costume. So it's not an off-the-shelf kind of thing. Okay. Because the ones that you can buy at the Halloween store is nowhere near screen accurate. So there's this whole group. In Maryland, there's in this area, there's more than 100 people who have the Stormtroopers and the Darth Vader and Boba Fett. These really awesome, perfect. Every scratch has to be the right color and the right. If you have the angle of the scratch in the wrong spot, it doesn't count. You don't get approved. Huh. So I said, well, I want that. I want to no holds barred. I'm going to spend what it costs. I'm going to buy all the parts, build all the things, get all these tools. And I quickly found I needed a space to do this. So I came across the Baltimore node and finished the costume up there. Yeah. Finished the armor there. But I went to this guy Charlie's house for an armor party.
Okay.
So I found him in the forum, the local old line garrison of all the Star Wars people. Yeah. And showed up at his house one day and with a wicker basket full of all my, Star Wars Stormtrooper, trimmed plastic parts. It's just a basket of them. And everyone there was showing off props, and I had never seen these like super accurate, like real life, like it looked like it was just on the screen. Like I specifically remember the, I guess the Rebel Trooper helmet when they took out off the. It was like the circular thing, and they took it off in the fire in indoor, and I remember that helmet. And I was, oh, that's really cool. And this guy was building the backpacks for the sand troopers that the stormtroopers on Tatooine are sand troopers. Okay. They all have backpacks. Yeah. And this one guy was building the backpacks. Like he was putting together these kits and selling them, and they needed the radio, and there's this radio for it, and that radio is the Sonic's Victory 75. It's a discontinued radio, and you can't get it anymore. There's like one picture on the internet of it, and I sat with him and 3D modeled it, 3D printed it, made silicon molds, and he poured resin copies and started including that with his kit, and he was giving me $20 each time he sold one. I was like, yeah, that's pretty neat. And then, a month later, I was getting some money from him for the work that I did a month ago. I was like, oh, that's really cool. And then his friend wanted to make some spaceships, and then I ended up making the top from Inception. I went to a local machine shop and said, hey, here's a drawing. Could you make this for me? And I started selling those things, and I bought the domain inceptiontops.com, and sold like tons of these tops, these little like spinning metal tops, and
really?
People like them.
Yeah.
And I did like the Green Lantern ring shortly after that. Yeah. And I was like, well, let me just like quit my job and make stuff. So it happened because I was at like a construction company in a engineering position, like in the engineering department for a mechanical contractor, and this is like 2010, the end of 2009, beginning of 2010, and there was like the recession, but it was like a little delayed because of construction. So construction industry is always at the end. Yeah. So they were doing like furlough days, and I got like 4-day weekends sometimes to like make stuff. Yeah. So I figured, let me just do that. So I was thrilled to leave and make the jump to start making my own stuff, and I've pretty much been on my own since then. Right. I got recruited to work at MakerBot, which is a 3D printing company in New York, so I was there for most of 2012. And then I've worked a bunch with Tinkerine Studios, and they're out in Vancouver, and they make 3D printers too.
So why did you leave Maker? Because I knew you when you got. I was like, oh, he's going off to New York, MakerBot, and then you came back, and we're like, what? Why are you back?
MakerBot was awesome when I started there. Yeah. I don't totally want to completely get into the story. Okay. I mean, there's a movie called Print the Legend, which is out on Netflix, and it's a Netflix original, and that does a decent job at telling the story of what it was like. It's way watered down and like not the same thing. And what happens on screen is not the same as what was happening at the timeline. And, but and it's other people's stories, not my story. But when I started there, like I went up. There was a group they were founding. They were showcasing the capabilities of 3D printing. So at the Makerspace here, we had a MakerBot Cupcake, and that's their first 3D printer that MakerBot put out. And this is the new one that we're coming out with, the replicator. It was like a super shiny, well, still wood, but not shiny at all. But like, it came fully assembled, and it printed right out of the box. And they wanted us to showcase what it could do. And I had done a lot of 3D modeling. Like I started modeling in '97 when I was a kid. And, I'd done a lot of 3D printing at the Makerspace, using online service bureaus for 3D printing, like Shapeways. So they recruited me because they wanted me to like show off. I had done a few media things and gotten a lot of attention, and I had my name out there in the 3D printing world. So, and I was like traveling to different makerspaces. So I moved up there, and the interview, Bree told me, "Hey, we want you to come here and make pet robots." Like, that sounds like an awesome job. So, I moved up there, and the first project was making these little movie props, like TV props for the MakerBot TV show. And then the next project was, full speed ahead on making 3D printable robots that are like little pets and make a petting zoo. And, it was complete creative control. Like, just, I guess, a design, one like shot bubble, it had a bubble gun encased inside the thing, and it drove around and lit up, and it was really neat. And then another one had buttons all over its head, and the other guys designed one that had like, it was a bunch of stuff. So it was really cool. And towards the end, the company was really shifting. So we had this like team lead that was basically like our, like camp counselor who really wanted you to like succeed, and like he was like on your side and like helping you do really well. And they kind of like got rid of him and then put in this other girl who was basically like a supervisor, if no offense, if you worked at like a Target or something, where it was like super corporate retail kind of environment where it was like, I want you to make this in this color, and want 8 of them by lunchtime, and then design 4 more things by then. And it was like, we didn't have a choice. It was just like, the soul of the company was just like totally changed for me, for my position. And I guess we were sheltered some because the entire marketing department was just like chopped in half, and just tons of stuff happened. And it was just really a really different environment. So it's not something I wanted to be a part of. And the number one thing for me was like, in the beginning, I was told that, MakerBot wants me for my work, and they're gonna put my name on the stuff that I make, and then at the end, everything I made just said MakerBot. It didn't say my name. I was like, well, MakerBot didn't design that. Like, it's not something I wanted to stick around for.
Were there any like warning? Because like a lot of these people again might go off to new like startups or new technology companies. Were like any warning sign? Like when you got hired, were there any things that are like, damn, I saw that, or anything, or did it just something just happened?
Well, it was definitely you saw it in other departments, and our team lead had a great personality and was able to shelter us from the rest of it. So while we saw it coming in other departments, we were in like kind of a bubble for a while. Yeah. But yeah, I almost got let go the first week, like the third day.
Wow.
It was because like in the interview I was told one thing, and then when I got there was paperwork that said the other thing, and I like requested a meeting because companies say they have open door policies, and like come talk to us. So I was like, all right, I want to come talk to you. And then I got there, and it wasn't just me and Bree. It was me and Bree and someone else, and they were like, it was right up to the line where they were like, hey, you don't seem like you're a good fit for this. So I at that point, I had a list in my pocket of like things that I wanted, and things I'd be okay with, and things, and like I did not take that list out. If I had like taken that, I would have been like, I mean, there were some people who were like, hey, he's not signing paperwork, like he's gone. Like there wasn't any discussion. Like I was told I could continue doing stuff on my own. And then the paperwork said anything that you do during your employee here belongs to the company. I was like, well, I don't want that. That's not what we said before. So basically we didn't get a discussion about it. It was just, no, this is the way it is. Like, leave or don't. I mean, and fine, if that's how you want your own company, then you can. But like, I moved here already. I got an apartment. Like, and it's not something that we had discussed beforehand. So I figured at that point, well, I'm here for the ride. I'm not gonna like sign a super long-term lease or anything. I think I was in New York for about 2 years, but I didn't stay. I was at MakerBot for like 10 months or so. But yeah, I never took a long-term lease because I kind of knew. I mean, it's a startup first of all. I won't like buy a house next to your startup. But yeah, I never, I jumped in the company both feet. Like, I worked till like 8 o'clock building these robots. It was something I was passionate about, and then towards the end, it was like, oh, it's time to go. Like,
So you're up in New York, and I hear a lot of cool things are going up with manufacturing and all that in New York. Did you think about like staying there, like going and trying to jump to another company or something, or is there very much like, why would you come back to Baltimore from New York?
Well, I didn't want to be at another company. Like I am self-sufficient, so I can make stuff and then sell the stuff. I mean, I had done it the year prior to working at MakerBot, and I continued to do so after. Rent is more expensive in New York than Baltimore, and then the makerspace here is bigger and cheaper than the one there, and has more stuff here. And I mean, there's a lot more people in New York, but there's a lot more people on the internet, so it doesn't matter so much. I find life a lot easier in Baltimore. Like in New York, it just felt like it took so long to do anything, to get places. And like, yeah, there's public transportation, and it's great there, and it's crappy here, but it takes 25 minutes to get anywhere to anywhere in Baltimore, and like in New York, it's longer than that, and you can't just go there and go back home real quick, or there's a lot more space here. There's not as many people bumping into each other and like fighting over resources there, and there's a lot more events there. I remember like here there'll be like a few a week you could go to, and there it would be a few a night you could go to.
Wow.
So I mean that's a big difference. But I still talk to a lot of New York people. Just life is for me easier and happier here, so I came back here. And I own the house here too. That made it easier. I had like the tools at the makerspace here. Yeah. So
would you ever think about going and working for a company, or are you just kind of happy with yourself? Like if another, I don't know what the hell, like another equivalent of the MakerBot came and said, no, seriously, like would you be interested, or are you like, nah?
Yeah, I mean, a big downside of working for myself is that I don't have coworkers, so I don't have like socialization during the daytime with other people. So I mean that's a big thing. But I don't want to be tied in full time, locked into a 9 to 5 anymore. I definitely enjoy that freedom of like, hey, I want to go to Burning Man, and then after that drive up the coast to Portland, and then go to North Carolina for the weekend. Like that freedom where I can just decide to do it, and email people or work from the road, or while I need to be in a shop to actually do a lot of my physical production, I can design a lot in the computer. Like if someone just wants a 3D model made, or I can design it and send them the model. Like I've had an artist hire me who was working on a painting, but he needed a 3D model as reference. So he was doing it was some toroid like spiral donut shape thing, and he wanted to zoom in and be able to flip it around and draw that. So it was like not a physical print. But yeah, I like being that jack of all trades kind of thing where, there's a skill. How do they make that? And I guess most people that you talk to nowadays don't make things. So it's neat to like learn how to do that. Like just like antique technology, like ancient technologies, or like casting, or people don't either know what it is or know how to do it, or have never done it before. But to be able to take aluminum cans and melt them down at home with stuff you've already got at home and pour it into a new shape is neat. And yeah, just expanding that skill set, so like later on when there's a project, you're not kind of locked into the tool that you already know how to use. A lot of times you'll see it in the 3D printing world that people are trying to solve a problem with their 3D printer when like you should just use a piece of tape, or or like you forget that you could paint your part when it's done printing if you need part of it to be a different color, or you can glue two parts together, or you can there's tons of different things that people kind of forget when they focus just on one machine. They say when you have the hammer and the nail thing, everything looks like a nail if you have a hammer. So like it's like that with a 3D printer, and I think with any tool. If you only have a laser cutter, you're going to try and solve every problem with the laser cutter.
So you say, so you're alone, so you're doing this all on your own. Have you thought about trying to grow the company? Are there scaling, like can you grow like what you're doing if you wanted to?
Yeah, it's hard because sometimes I think in my head, well, only I know how to do this. I can't just like kind of outsource it to someone else. Yeah. But I have hired apprentices style where they come in and help with more manual labor. I had a really successful Kickstarter a couple months ago. I made these wooden door stops that said the word Hodor on it, which is like a Game of Thrones thing. I don't personally watch Game of Thrones, but I was quick. I jumped on the ball and made a nice video and put it on Kickstarter, and raised a bunch of money and sold a bunch of these things. But it's a lot of sanding. It's a lot of like staining, putting in the laser, and I got a distributor who's buying them, and like 100 a week kind of thing, or it changes, but yeah. So I had them come and help with different parts of the project, and with other things. But yeah, it's kind of a slow thing. It's not the startup style, take investment funding and then just hire as many people as you can and hope you turn a profit before you run out of money. I don't. It's my company. I don't want to. It's scary. You don't want to run out of money, and then if you're out of money, your company doesn't need money. You have to go to a regular job. So I don't want that.
So is it your stuff like artisan, or like is it like could you hire 10 people if you really decided I'm gonna go hardcore into this? Could you get up to 10 employees? Do you think?
I'm sure I could.
Yeah.
A lot of my products are really niche, like people buying like products from movies that were out 25 years ago, and they want that thing, and you know, it's just not like a huge demand for all the things. So, for that kind of stuff. For the projects, it depends. It's actually kind of finding the right person and making sure there's enough demand. I'm sure as more and more people find out that there are more and more technologies available to them, and they have that, you know, next idea. And, you know, some ideas are silly and some ideas are awesome, but if somebody wants it, and you know, a lot of the ones that come to me are really neat. You know, I got to make a magic trick recently, or
magic trick, right?
Like a little gimmick thing for a magician. You know, those are really neat and innovative, and then other ones are like, well, why are you doing this? You're only doing it because you want it 3D printed, or and sometimes people totally don't get it, and they think that, you know, well, why does it cost $20 to make that thing if it's only a piece of plastic? And I see another thing in the store that's similar to it. I'm like, yeah, you can have that for $3 each, but you know, it costs $50,000 up front to make an injection mold for that. So they're like, oh, but I can't do that because like not everyone wants to buy it. And I'm like, well, then it's not a good product. Like, this is not a solution for that. But sometimes it fits. You know, sometimes, you know, somebody only wants 50 of something, and it's, you know, worth it to make them for $20 each instead of, you know, $3 each to sell 1,000 or 10,000. Yeah,
that's interesting. So you're with the Node then. So why did you pick the Node as a makerspace? It's not the only makerspace in Baltimore.
Well, now there's a bunch. I was just at the White House, and there was like a big makerspace organizers conference, and that one had like people from each makerspace. It was like long waiting list, 180 people plus the waiting list after that, and Baltimore had 6 spaces represented, and then there was another one somewhere else in Maryland. I mean, sure, it was so close because Baltimore DC is close, but there's a couple new ones. One that just opened, one that's opening soon. I think the opening date for Open Works is September 24th.
Okay.
The Foundry opened earlier this summer.
Yeah, I heard that.
We have unallocated space. We have the Baltimore Hackerspace. There's Bugs. It's like Baltimore Underground Science Space.
Okay.
There's the DC Fab Lab. There's the CCBC Fab Lab. There's tons of these like smaller ones in schools and things. So it's just like, hey, this community arts center has one, or like Towson University's Object Design Lab. Like, does that count as one? There's the jewelry space, the Baltimore Jewelry Center, and that's a makerspace for jewelers.
Yeah.
So you can like rent benchtop space there. So we have these really niche ones. But the Node, I mean, it was the first one in Baltimore. It was one of the first in the U.S. Like, for sure not the first. Noisebridge, I think, started in 2007. I think we started in 2008 or 9 or so.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it was the only one around when I joined. I think unallocated space has been open for a long time, too, but they're kind of more focused on, like, information security, cybersecurity kinds of stuff, and not, like, manufacturing and the making of stuff. I mean, we have a broad mix at our space. Like, there's the boat person and the cabinet person, and, so people really involved in just the wood shop. I like to do casting a lot, and the laser cutter and 3D printer. There's programming people that only do LEDs and websites and those kinds of things. It's like a really broad mix.
So, like, how much does it cost to join a makerspace generally?
So the Node's $50 a month, and you get 24/7 access.
Okay, wow,
a key to the space, storage, and a vote in the organization. So it's like an equal, no one's the boss kind of thing.
Yeah.
I think the Foundry's like $150 a month, and there's limited access. There's the CCBC Fab Labs, like I think it's like $200 to take the class, and then you take every time you come is $5.
Yeah.
But I like the Node because of that access, the hours. So, like if I want to do something at 3 a.m., like you can go there, and I've done it many times to just, work when I want to work, and like the main thing I like about it is the other people that are there. So there's just people you can ask. There's that mailing list you can send questions to. If you can't find an answer on Google or you need help with something, like I'm the person that can answer about certain things, and someone else is the person that can answer about something else.
How many people are with the node?
The node's at about 35, but not everyone's active every day, like or every month. Like sometimes people just don't come. Sometimes people are supporting members where they pay but don't show up, and other people who are there all the time, working on whatever they want to work on.
Yeah. So if you're saying there's 6 maker spaces in Baltimore, is there a makerspace bubble at all? Do you think, or is there really that much demand for them?
I think that different spaces can cater to different types of people.
Yeah.
So while the node sucks at marketing, we do go to events sometimes, and pretty much when we talk to people, they're like, "Oh, that's awesome! I've never heard of such a thing."
Yeah.
And most of the time, they don't join or don't come by. But like, it's out there, and then $50 a month is not a lot to someone who like wants to tinker and wants to solder something, or I don't know. Like some people don't find the use for it. Sometimes people say, "Well, $50 a month, I don't have the need for that." For me, it kind of just moved in, and I do almost all my work there. Where I need hands-on stuff, I try to keep my projects there, so I'm not working on them here. I do a lot here too, but I don't like it when I'm in a situation where I'm like there and I have a part I need that's at home, or vice versa, or I'm at home and the tool that I use down there.
Yeah.
So I've been trying to like bring my tools there, and for me, like right after I graduated college, I kind of moved out, and I never bought my own tools, so didn't own a hammer kind of guy, but I needed it, and it was there, and it's like a drill press, and all the things that you might need, instead of having them all in your garage or in a closet in the basement or something, to kind of put them all together, and you get 30 people together who are doing the same thing. You don't need 35 wrenches of the same size. You get 3, and then you get a laser cutter, or something else. So it's it's been pretty neat. So I bought this really cool polishing tool that most people wouldn't have, and I'm sharing it. It's there, so other people can have it. So I like that communal aspect.
Oh, that's cool. So then with maker spaces and all that, is there a Silicon Valley of the maker community? Is there whoa, the place you really need to go is?
Well, I guess the closest thing to that would be a Maker Faire, and the Bay Area Maker Faire or the New York Maker Faire.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And these are fairs put on by Make Magazine, which is totally separate than Maker Bot. They're it's a magazine, and Maker Media has fairs, and some of them are put on by Make, and some of them are independently organized and are mini Maker Fairs, and then there's the flagship fairs. Yeah. So I always go to the New York and California one. Yeah. Set up a booth there. You get some leads by showing the projects that you worked on, and people want to hire you for other things. But also, I sell things there. I pay for the commercial maker fee, so I'm selling earrings and stuff like that. But there's just kind of awesome projects that wouldn't exist elsewhere. So there's crazy bicycle contraption things, and just huge giant things just because. Yeah. In that sense, it's like Burning Man. It's very different, but you kind of have that taste where there's just big art, silly projects that are there just because. I remember, I think it was my first Maker Faire. It was either my first or second New York Maker Faire. They had a swing set, and you could swing on the swing, and across the bar, the top bar, there was water that would fall down. And each little spot where the water could fall out of had a little valve that was controlled by the computer.
Okay.
And it would swing, and you could swing through a little window, so pretty much you wouldn't get wet when you're swinging through this little water window. And it was a screen. It could drop down different pictures because each valve would turn on and off, and it would draw little pixels with water.
Oh, wow.
And at the Bay Area one, a lot of the Burning Man crowd comes there. Some. The the giant robot octopus that shoots fire is there. So that's pretty neat. That's at both. But you get to see all these people from different places and the stuff they made, and a lot of it's a just because thing. Like this Ben Franklin project here. It's a project I organized called We the Builders, and we crowdsource 3D printing. So people from all over the world print out one section of the sculpture and then mail it to me and glue them all together. And there's no company or money involved. It's just, it's cool if we make it. So we've gotten shipping sponsored a couple times, and somebody received, like the Direct Dimensions, the 3D scanning company in Onyx Mills, they did the 3D scan of this. So we had like a small one, and they scaled it up, and then I chopped it into the pieces, and it's just a because project.
So it's not really, so it's not important to live somewhere, it's more to go to the event. Like if you go to the New York event, is that good enough? Or like you don't really need
it depends what you want to get out of it. Like when you're asking me like, what's the Silicon Valley of them, like, hey, I gotta go to Baltimore to get the best makerspace experience. I'm not gonna say that. I mean, you should come here because it's awesome. Well, don't come here because you'll drive the rent prices up. But like, no, I don't think there's like one space you have to go. It's really your community and seeing the neat projects. There's so many just silly things that people make that are just, hey, that's awesome. And like that moment when I see something at Maker Faire, like, oh my god, I got to try this out. And I hesitate to say, oh my god, I got to take a picture of that, because I like that experience and participating and being a part of it. And but like there's all these little communities that come there. There's the Power Tool Racing series. There's the Power Wheel Racing series. They make the little, like the Barbie cars, the Power Wheels cars, but they soup them up and make them really fast. There's the Power Tool Racing, where you have like a belt sander that you zip tie the trigger down and you put on a racetrack and it goes. There's the Motorboat Paddle Battle. It's a 3D printed boat race. It's pretty neat.
That's cool.
I don't know. There's battleships that shoot little ball bearings and sink other battleships, and there's a giant pool that the battleships drive around on.
Really? Wow.
So that community's there. And 100 other ones that I can't think of at the moment. But there's just stuff that's just like, hey, that's really cool. And then usually the people who are doing that project just made it because they thought it was really cool. And then someone else said, hey, I want that. All right, I'll make you one. And then they tell their friends, and it turns into like a business.
That's cool. That's interesting. So then with what you're doing, like with being a professional maker and doing all this, are there certifications? Is there an A+ or MCSE for what you do?
I mean, some spaces offer, hey, I took this class, or some schools have that kind of thing, but I don't know, I never really thought highly of certifications. Like, just like showing people what you did, bringing a thing in and say, hey, I made this sculpture of this thing, or here's my Han Solo and carbonate that I made, I think speaks more than, like, I know how to use the laser cutter, I promise. See, I have this paper that says I can.
Okay,
I don't know. I think even with like A+ certification, I mean, I don't know anything about it, but like, I don't know. I know how to use Windows, so I'll have to like show you.
I don't know if there's that kind of a maker, like I understand the 50 variations of plastic, or I don't know.
One of the things that I like to do at our space is when we have a class, you make a badge that says that you did that thing. Okay, so like on the laser cutter, you design the, hey, I'm approved for laser cutter use badge. So you have that little keychain that you carry with you. Or like the mold making class, you make a mold of a little thing that says mold making class. So you have a thing for it. It's kind of like a thing you can show, like, hey, I did this. But yeah, I think that actions speak louder than words applies here, where it's like, I made this thing and I can tell you about this project and go into the details of like what I learned, what worked, what didn't work. And I think that some people can get, I don't know anything about the A+ certification, but I think some people can get that and know way more than someone else who also got it. And I think it's possible you get a C in a class and you know way more about the subject than someone who got the A in the class, because of how you studied and how you put in the work and what you know. I don't know. So yeah, I think it's that. So
then how do you do it? Because you're talking about like Star Wars and you're talking about Inception and all that. So how do you deal with intellectual property then?
So sometimes I've gotten a little in trouble, and sometimes I've like yelled at other people for doing things, and
Yeah.
some of it's like muddy water, and some of it's like clear cut but under the radar, and some of it's like, hey, stop, and then you have to stop. But I mean, I've learned a lot about it, and a lot of people think that patent, trademark, and copyright are all the same thing.
Yeah.
And a lot of people have no idea what copyright is, or they think that their thing's copyrighted, but it's not, because that's not how that part of it works. I mean, I'm not a lawyer, but I learned a lot about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got a cease and desist from Paramount Pictures for a prop replica that I made from the movie Super 8. And that was like in June 2011,
Yeah.
the first time that anyone got a cease and desist for a 3D printed object.
Okay.
So at the time, it was like in Wired and Time and Atlantic and all those things. And, but it was just like a little white box with cubes in the corners of those cubes, and it vibrated, and it was neat. But for that one specifically, like the company that had the license produce them was also a member of the same replica prop community I was. So when I said, hey, I'm ready, I'm done, these are for sale.
Okay.
And they were like, whoa, wait a minute, we didn't get started yet. You know, they were worried, so they said stop. So I stopped.
But you're not worried, because
but-
you said like something like with the green.
I'm not making thousands of these things. They're not like in the store competing, and a lot of them are from these like movies that are not around anymore, like props from Dune, or like really old things, or things that are just not on the market.
Yeah.
I make like the Biker Scout blaster, which is it's up here. It's like the Scout Trooper blaster from Return of the Jedi.
Okay.
So these files are freely available. I designed it. I shared the file online. Anyone can download it for personal use, but not to print out and sell and compete with myself, which happens a lot. And then I messaged them, was like, hey, you're using my thing. Could you take it down? And almost always they're like, oh, I didn't realize. They take it down. But yeah, I lost that train of thought. But yeah, they're neat things. What were we talking about?
Well, no, but like with the copyright and the IP, like, are you
so
like?
I mean, nobody like the Kenner one of those was not the same and has not been made for 30 years.
Yeah.
So like, I think that if like my philosophy would be like, if a company wants it, then they make it too, and they have the resources, they'll be able to make it better and faster and cheaper. Than they should, and if it's something that's not available or at a caliber that's not available, then like it's not free range. It's not. I'm not in the right to make it, but I don't think usually they care, because it's not like thousands of dollars. It's not like tons of money.
Yeah.
So to them, it's like not worth. The special case of the Super 8 cube was that the license company that paid for the license to make them, and I beat them by. They ended up coming out with theirs a year later.
Wow.
Like, that was like I would have either not soaked the market, but like I would have like soaked up the sales of theirs, because I was way sooner than them.
So you're just wait, because that's what I just think about, like with actually like now that Disney owns Star Wars, there's that whole thing where they're talking about there's some nursery or child care down in Florida that had Minnie and Mickey Mouse like painted on the side, and Disney came in and told them like to take it down.
Yeah, I mean they're super protective, but the whole Disney copyright thing is a totally separate issue about the way they, use their influence and money to change the government to extend copyright law. I mean, it's not really a discussion for now, but I mean, from my understanding, every time Mickey Mouse is about to go into the public domain, the copyright law gets extended so that it doesn't, because of their influence. So it's, I don't know. But for like the charity organization, the costume group, like you can't buy. Like, there's no company that makes the Biker Scout blaster.
Yeah.
You need one to be in the Fire First if you're a Biker Scout.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean, I'm sharing the file, so that's one neat thing, that people can download it and have it for themselves for that organization.
Yeah.
And anyone who wants to be a collector.
Yeah.
So that's neat.
So you don't get permission. You make sure, verify, or anything.
No.
Yeah, that's cool. So with like when you get hired to like make stuff for people, have you noticed anything weird with the clients and customers? Like, is there are people who buy stuff from you peculiar in some way?
like are the projects they want strange?
Well, like I tell them, like I've done a lot of different technology things, and so like I tell them, when you have people that want web design, they'll come in, they'll write you the entire check, but then they'll never give you the material to actually build the damn website. Or like there's different types
so
of
funny
clients.
stories.
Well, just like is there any kind of like weird stuff with like people who buy like they have to keep in mind?
Yeah, but everyone is different. I mean, sometimes the person's idea is very silly, and like you have to sit there and try and figure out what they want.
Yeah.
And a lot of times people don't get that you're charging them twice, because I'm charging one for the design and one for the printing. So
Okay.
so like, because for most industries they're connected. Like
Yeah.
you only charge one time, but like if you want 1,000 of a thing,
Yeah.
sometimes I'll just roll the design cost into the production of it.
Yeah.
But sometimes, like, you want 3 of these things, I'm gonna, spend hours designing it, and then I have to pay to get it printed or use a machine or laser cut or whatever.
Yeah.
So it's, the 2 parts. So sometimes people don't get why it costs so much for that. And I don't think that I charge a lot. It's just some projects work and some won't work. Like, I understand that you just want this for your kid's toy and you want to only spend $10 on it, but it's going to take me 8 hours plus $10 of material.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to sell it to you for $5 or what,
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, sometimes they get angry about that. But you just say that's that price and don't hire me.
So do you have a minimum size project, like a minimum $1,000 project or $100 or?
I don't like doing anything less than $100 because just the emailing and understanding what they want
Yeah.
can. But sometimes I know, hey, this is going to take me like literally 3 minutes, to do the work. I have to email you and talk to you and send you the thing and deal with your NDA that your idea is so amazing, and then and then the thing that you tell me is like already on the shelves and like.
Damn.
I don't know. I think NDAs are kind of silly, but I get why people want it. But like, if you don't trust me, don't do business with me. Paper's not going to fix that. Like, it's just a lot of times it's really not worth it, and then a lot of times the NDA is just wrong. Like it says stuff in there that like I can't agree to. Like it says, like one of them was, at any time, if you say so, I have to give you all my stuff. Like I have to give you all the files related to the project and just like send it to you. And that makes sense, but like if you're gonna do that, you have to pay me first, or else you do all the work and then you give me the stuff and like you didn't pay me. And like, yeah, but it says in this contract that you have to. No.
No. Okay.
And then sometimes it like we go all through all this back and forth fixing an NDA, and then they tell me about the project and it's like, oh no, I can't do this. This is not related to what I do. Oh, okay. Thanks, and you waste all that time. So it's like, I think they're a waste of time.
Do you get a lot of NDAs with what you do?
A lot of people ask for it. And occasionally I'm able to convince them that we shouldn't go through the work. But like, I don't like dealing with the paper. I mean, to steal someone's idea and like compete with them in business when you just help them with a project ruins your reputation for future projects with anyone.
Yeah.
Because they'll just post about that online and then people will read that and you won't get any more work.
Yeah.
I mean, it's way more. It's worth it way more to me to like. I don't even have the time. Like I'm working on other projects. Like I can't take yours because I want to do mine. There's like tons of my projects that I haven't done yet. I'm not gonna do yours before I do mine.
Yeah, that's cool. So is there any cool technology, like 3D printing was a cool thing a while ago? Is there like anything like on the horizon that's like, oh my golly, this is amazing?
You always see really neat, really clever advances of specific technologies, but not usually a new giant, oh my god, that didn't exist before, now it does.
Okay, yeah.
Like 3D printing, been around for 30 years. Like, not as new as people think, but like, people don't make stuff and then they're like, holy crap, that's a machine that makes stuff I want to make. I need to know anything about 3D printing because it makes whatever you want.
Yeah.
Well, it doesn't really make what you want. You have to, it's got to be like this big in plastic or what. You can print in metal and you can do stuff to it, but I always like these, learning the other skills, like instead of like going really far into one kind of technology, kind of spreading out and learning all the different kinds.
Yeah.
I mean, so many people have heard of these 3D printers now that haven't heard of laser cutters. And laser cutters are, the barrier to entry for using a laser cutter is way lower than a 3D printer. Like, you just need a 2D design file, and it's fast. I don't know. People make tons of stuff with that. It's way faster.
Yeah.
Like a CNC router is really cool. You can do a lot of cool stuff. There's a lot of neat software that kind of can plug into a laser cutter or a CNC router that lets you take your design and step it up to the next level.
Yeah.
Like to do something like this where you have one model and chop it into pieces and build it back together.
Yeah.
Stuff like that where you already have the model and a printer can't print something 3 feet tall, but to be able to, I'm gonna make a shelf. So next time you come over, I'll have this really cool shelf for all my board games on the wall here. And I have I have it all planned out in my head. I just haven't made it yet, but it's gonna be really neat. And there's like a software that you make a 3D model, and then it turns it into shelves for you.
Really?
Into that shape, like it could be like the Ben Franklin, but a shelf version of it.
Oh, weird. That's cool.
So I'm gonna make this like wavy kind of thing that sticks out of the wall, and you can put games on it.
Yeah.
So that neat software I think is exciting to me. And I mean, at the Node we just got this 5-foot by 12-foot CNC router, and I'm really excited to use that.
Wow, that's big. Yeah.
Yeah, like you can put stuff like bigger than a table on there, and it'll carve it.
Damn. That's cool.
You can carve foam, you can carve aluminum, wood, 2-dimensional and like 3D, because it can't do undercuts, but it can change the surface.
Oh,
So
that's cool.
it's not just that drill thing that we're talking about.
Yeah.
You can move sideways and at an angle, and you can make like a round part by going back and forth. And there's different bits you can attach to it and carve different shapes,
That's cool.
like signs. And so that's gonna be really powerful, and I'm sure it will be used a lot. You draw new members. And,
yeah. That's pretty cool. So I guess to wrap up that, so you were talking about going to Burning Man.
Yeah, it's pretty neat out there.
Yeah, so why do, because like I hear like all the tech people now go to Burning Man and all that. I feel like I'm 40 and I just don't want to get hot and sweaty and dirty anymore.
It was hotter in Baltimore than it was in Black Rock City.
Really?
The week I was there.
Really?
Came back here, I was like, man, it's hot.
Really? Because
Yeah.
all you hear about is being like boiling hot and dirty. I mean,
I don't know, it was like 90. I think it was like 95 here.
Oh, really? No, that's not bad. I thought it was like in the hundreds there.
No, and then also the humidity here so it was like
Yeah.
worse here for sure.
Oh, okay.
I mean, it's dusty there.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
you have that. But, I mean, you get dusty and then you're dusty the week, so it's not that big a deal. I mean, just the art that's there is stuff that can't even exist at Maker Fairs. You have way more space and giant stuff and these giant art cars and just neat camps and cool people. And I thought it was hilarious. I brought my girlfriend this year, and she was always kind of like making fun of people because every time she asked them what Burning Man was like, they don't have a descriptive answer. And, and she just didn't get it. She's like, why? And then we were at the airport coming back, one of the legs, and she was talking to someone, and she explained that she was just there. And I didn't say a thing. I was just watching, and he was like, let me guess, if you had one word to describe it, it would be indescribable. like, she just couldn't explain what it was. It's the kind of thing you have to go.
Right.
It's pretty neat.
Do you go every year? Or?
I've been twice. This is my second year.
Yeah. Do you plan to keep going then?
Yeah. You mean sometimes I'm just not able to go, and sometimes it's hard to get a ticket, or sometimes it's just doesn't line up with the rest of life. But hey, it's a really neat experience. And then this year the theme was Da Vinci's workshop. That was like there's a theme each year.
Yeah.
The theme this year was that. So there was the man in the center, and then around it was a little village, a little like kind of workshop, and they had like a solar powered Etch-a-Sketch thing, and glass blowing, and metal working areas, and there's like a really neat table and chairs and car that was all CNC routed, where the seat had a cushion give to it, and it was just wood. So that was,
weird.
it's like a spring pattern carved into it.
Okay.
So I'm definitely gonna try something like that.
Yeah.
And a bunch of other making things around there. So it's just neat to see that kind of stuff there.
That's cool. Can you rent a car and go? I heard they don't like car rental companies don't like you going to Burning Man. Like, how do you fly in and do that?
Yeah, I used my friend's RV camper van thing, and we drove out there from Portland.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you can rent. There's the Burner Express, like a bus that you can take from San Francisco or from Reno, and a bunch of people go together.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
Drive your own car there, rent a van. I mean, they don't know where you're going. And it's not bad. I mean, you can clean it or pay the rental fee.
Yeah, okay.
but everyone goes their own way, and like that's kind of the part like you get to figure out how to get there is a lot of it.
Yeah.
I mean, figuring out how to get there, how to be there,
Yeah.
how to like survive there is like a big part of it. So I mean, you like you're saying, you hear about like tech people just paying to go, they're not getting that experience. So it's not you miss out on a big part if you're not like waiting in the line coming in, because it's not just a line.
It's not just a line.
People like park and get out and party and hang out and talk to other people and like my uncle said, hey, I heard there was like a 9-hour line getting out of there in traffic. I'm like, well, it was like 5 hours, and we knew it was coming, and it wasn't a line. Like, we parked every hour. You drive for like 3 minutes, and then you get out. So it's not like a line sitting in traffic. Like, they pulse it, so you're like stopped, and then you go, and then you stop. It's not like regular traffic where you're moving at 1 mile an hour for an hour. So you're moving like normal speed for a couple minutes, and then park for an hour. So that was pretty neat. Yeah, the stuff that you see there and at Maker Fairs are so big and incredible that just wouldn't exist elsewhere, and that won't exist again because they burn most of it.
They do, yeah, they really do. Yeah, that's cool. So I guess then, like, the final question then, since you're a professional maker, then, are there any like lessons learned? Like, is there anything that you wouldn't do again, or you would? Like, if you had to go back, if you were back in 2007, if you were, I don't know, however, 8 years younger, and you were starting out, is there something you're like, don't do that, do that?
Well, the do stuff is definitely like pick a project, something you don't know how to do at the outset, and like figure out how to make it. So if you just do projects that you already know how to make, then it feels like work, and you're just doing a project. But if it's like a new tool, and you're kind of like pushing the boundary, doing something that no one around you has done before, or something that you can kind of like show off and say, hey, I want to do this thing, but I want to include this in it. And like, oh, whoa, I've never heard of that. Or, that's a crazy idea. Or why would you want that? Because I want it. And I'm like, okay. So you make something that you want to make that you haven't made before, that you don't know how to make, and then along the way you learn those skills, and then I think there's no better way to teach someone than when right after you had just learned it, because at that point you're like the most excited about it. You're like, hey, let me tell you what I just got, or what I just learned, or that let me share this new piece of knowledge with you that I just learned. And at that point it's exciting, because a lot of times I'll start a project that I don't have a clear path of, like, I know that it is possible, I just don't know how to do it yet. So then along the way you learn those tips, like those tricks, those skills. As far as what not to do, like,
is there anything, like, I know with my career there's just a couple of things you're just like, oh, I can't.
I mean, I'm sure there's 100 things, but I mean, I don't know. I don't have a specific thing to tell you. There's
okay, cool.
There's a million, but
I
I mean, there's specific individual tips and tricks like for any given machine. Don't put vinyl in the laser cutter. Don't print your 3D printed object 100% solid. You probably don't need to be 3D printing that thing that you're 3D printing. I don't know. I guess there's some places that buy really expensive equipment. I think it's better to have more equipment than really, really expensive, because sometimes they just charge you a lot for it. So if you have a specific need for something, I guess wouldn't buy all the equipment. You can try it, and use other people's, and I guess don't keep stuff to yourself a lot. Sometimes you learn something, if you share the file, then other people can like build on what you learned. You can build off what they learned. I don't know. I don't have a good don't do this kind of thing.
Oh, that works. Cool. Well, thank you for your time today.
Yeah, sure. Thanks for coming over.
Yeah. So Todd Blatt, you can take a look. What's your website?
The main site is custom3dstuff.com.
All right. So take a look at custom3dstuff.com.
If you've got a 3D printer, you can check out the We the Builders project, because we're launching that in about 3 weeks. So like at the end of September.
Okay.
That's the crowdsource thing. So anyone who has a 3D printer, who has access to a 3D printer, can download a part and print it out and mail it to us, and then
that's cool.
We'll bring it to the next Maker Faire or whatever, all the events we go to. So we're doing the Rosie the Riveter sculpture.
Yeah.
We have George Washington, the Ben Franklin, there's Edgar Allan Poe, and then the Rosie the Riveter's coming.
Wow, cool.
So that should be pretty neat.
Cool. Well, take a look, and I'll see you folks in the next video.